Friends, we are at the final module of our course. This module talks about evaluation tools and techniques for user product interaction. This module will be covered by me along with Dr. Swati Pal, my colleague. We would first start with usability evaluation. Here I would provide you a brief about why usability evaluation is important and some of the matrices or factors that would be considered for usability evaluation. In detail about the human factor related evaluation techniques would be covered by my colleague Dr. Swati Pal. Friends, usability testing is one of the most important factors of new product design. After the creation of product, it is very important to verify that when the product goes through human interaction, that it is achieving their objective or goal. It is very important. When you have a concept and you have developed the prototype, it is very important that we test it out with end users to make sure that the product fits the mental model of the users as well as it reaches its goal and objective in a very effective and efficient way. It is often very important to test the usability of a product among people of different ages, genders and demographics. Friend, this is very important. Each of these segments will have their different anticipations, will have the different mental models and therefore will have a different sets of frustrations and motivations. We need to identify each of them, each one of these stakeholders or end users rather, and do a user testing, end user testing with the products being conceptualized. Usability testing allows designers to improve upon the design. So, based on the findings of our usability testing, we would take these inputs and then try to reconfigure or redesign the concepts in a way that addresses the challenges that the user faced while interacting with the product. Friends, here I would like to make a point that when you are doing a user testing, make it a point that you clearly identify people who are novice and people who are an expert. Novice means people who have never used any kind of those products in their life and this is the first time they are interacting with any such idea. Experts have been using your competitors, they are really smart in telling you where your product lacks and they knows each one of the competitors with whom you are pitching in the market in a great and detailed way. So, therefore, make it a point to identify the novice users and the expert users and conduct the user testing accordingly. I would talk about some of the important factors which you can evaluate during your usability evaluation sessions. First of all is task success. Now, the ability of your user to complete the task successfully, to what degree, ability to complete it with ease or difficulty or fail to complete has to be reported, right. All these factors has to be reported and measured. It is very important because if you are figuring out that the effectiveness of the product has to be determined. Next important factor is time on task. How much time is required to complete a task? This is very important. If certain products in the market are taking a longer time in comparison to the product that you have conceived, then you have a better chance to survive the competition. Similarly, it is the other way around also. If your competitors can achieve the task in very simple ways and in less amount of time and your concept is taking longer time, then it is a big question mark on your ability to think about effective solutions. Rather, I say it is not a question mark on your ability, but the ability of the concept itself to address the solution, to address the problems that are being faced by the end users. Third most important is errors. How many times while interacting with my product or the concept, the user is encountering an error. Now, errors highlights that the mental model or the concept that the users have in their mind that this product will work does not fit actually the way the product works. So, friends, this is very important for you to measure the amount of errors or the number of errors that users are committing. Learnability. A task is repeated at least once to determine whether the time on task is shorter, fewer errors are made, or the task is more successful. Friends, when the, say for example, when a product and the way it works, it matches with the mental model of the user, it becomes very easy for your user to operate that product. In a way, it has less number of errors, the user encounters less number of errors, and the effectiveness of the task also increases. Therefore, what happens? The learning curve increases drastically. The next time when the user operates, he does not have to dig into his memory and figure out, oh, let me see how I operated it last time. He would do it intuitively. Now, this is learnability. At the first onset when the concept is being introduced, see whether the task can be completed and can be completed quickly or not. That is a measure of learnability. And finally, the most important thing is satisfaction. Participants' overall feelings about a product before, during and after test. Friends, one of the most important criteria of measuring satisfaction is whether, I mean, you can ask this to your users, whether they are going to promote your product to their friends, in their friend circle or somebody else. If they say yes, that means they are actually motivated by using your product, they really like your product. So, to what extent they are satisfied, to what extent the issues pertaining to the use of the product are efficient and effective and pleasurable, that would increase the level of satisfaction of the users, you have to figure out. So, there are a number of scales that you can use. You can go and search scales on satisfaction and you can ask your end user to rate this product based on the scales of satisfaction. Friends, as part of usability testing, these are some of the essential criteria or factors which you should consider while evaluating a concept or a prototype with your end user before releasing in the market. Apart from these usability features, there are other human factor tools and techniques for evaluating the product. My counterpart Dr. Swati Pal will discuss them in detail in the coming session.
Welcome. Here we will discuss about the evaluation tools and techniques for user product interaction. Usability aspects of usability evaluation tools and techniques have already been discussed by Dr. Devendhar, and we will discuss few more from the point of view physical and emotional aspects. So, when you are selecting any evaluation tool or method, how to select? First is that part. So, once you are selecting, maybe you are selecting some product, but we can take one example what we have seen earlier, that is maybe the can opener. Okay. So, if we see that thing, so what is the main characteristic of the interaction? So, if you take that example, that you need certain force to exert to open that thing. So, you need to operate that wing nut and then you have to rotate it and then it will open. Next is, so the characteristic of the interaction is that thing. There is the nature of the problem. So, if you think that product can be used by anybody, maybe from a 12 years to 70 years person. So then if you think this more weak person or kid, they may not be able to exert that much force to open that thing. So that problem may happen. So in this case, if we take this example, that it is important to understand how much force or ability they have. So what is the ability and limitation of the user who can use this product? Depending on that, you can redesign your thing. You can understand, evaluate that parameter, and then you can think of to redesign this product. Next is parameter need to measure in this interaction. In this case, it's the minimum force you need, minimum torque you need to apply. It is very important to do it successfully. This can be another example, maybe to open a bottle, which is very day to day thing what we are doing. We are seeing that sometimes any elderly person are unable to do, or any kid are unable to do. If we take this same example, we can think that once you are having a new bottle, you need certain torque to exert to open that bottle. So that is very important. But if that torque is required is may not be sufficient, if the person what he or she is applying, it's not sufficient to open, then they will be unable. So if we take this type of interaction, we have to understand what your population or what your user can exert. So if it is elderly or some other range of population who can use, if it is somebody elderly or something who you are seeing that is the weakest person, the who can use this can opener or something, this bottle. So if we think this thing, so we have to think what is their ability. If we think their ability, so what parameter, how much force they can exert. So parameter need to measure in this interaction how much these people, this population can exert. So if you know they can exert this X force, then once you are designing something, maybe bottle or something, then you have to think that, so the bottle or something, so you have to think that this open, to open this thing, the force required should be less than this. So once it will be less than this X, then only you can open it very easily without anybody's help. So from this example, if you want to understand what to evaluate, first thing you need to evaluate what is the ability of the person, how much they can, what is the limitation. Another thing with this dimension, as we are talking in with respect to product design, it is very important to understand what is the dimension of this thing. As we know, if something is smaller in size, we can very easily grip it and then we can twist it. If it is very bigger, we are feeling difficulty to hold it and then use that torque to apply to open it. So it is another thing is that this base or where you are holding, if you are holding this thing and then you are opening, in this type of design, if you are designing some bottle, then it is very important what is the base where you are holding. Simultaneously, it is important what the cap of the bottle or the opening. So if you are designing something, you have to think all these parameter, and with this dimension change or this dimension change, how it is influencing the force you require to open. As we have discussed just now, if it is this big, it is difficult. If it is small, maybe it is easier, because in this case we are hold it properly, in this case we can't hold it properly. So all this dimension is important when you are designing a product, and what we need to understand and how you can assess and evaluate this interaction. So these are the main three things, three issues we need to consider when we are evaluating any product from the point of view of physical aspect. So there can be few methods can be there in case of physical methods. One is heuristic evaluation. Heuristic evaluation is something called rule of thumb. As we have discussed up to this point, that in human factors we have discussed that when you are standing erect, sitting erect, or not a very awkward position. Means if you are considering the hand posture, if your hand is like this, it is the most comfortable posture. But if your hand is getting like this, or maybe you are within a mouse, it is like this thing, and you have to adapt this posture due to the shape of the mouse like this, and you are holding like this. So you are deviating from your neutral posture. Your neutral posture is this: to hold this mouse you are doing this thing, which is awkward. So if you are adapting such posture, then you are also, your chance of risk is an injury of musculoskeletal issues will increase. So when we are doing heuristic evaluation, in this case what we are doing, the rule of thumb is your hand should be here. So we have a certain set of question where your rule of thumb, what is reference, it has been put there, and how much it is getting deviated from the reference condition, and for the neutral condition how much it is getting deviated, that thing we are evaluating through heuristic evaluation. Say for example, it can have this thing, how, what is the changes, you can put it in scale, something like this 1 2 3 4 5 rating scale you can use, or whether you can go for binary thing, yes no. First thing, it can be whether your hand is in neutral condition, yes or no. If your hand is this condition, your heuristic can be yes no, you will put yes. Or it can be, if it is 1 to 5, 1 to 5 rating scale can be used with heuristic evaluation. Maybe you have 3 types of mouse, so one is this type of, another 2 3 types of are there. So one can be this with reference condition is this, that is your, that is rule of thumb. So it should be like this, reference, it is the most comfortable condition. Then your, how much your wrist is getting awkward, with maybe product 1 it is this much, and it is maybe, if you rate this awkwardness, awkward posture, if it is most awkward is 5, in between 1 to 5 maybe it is 2. So if you have some mouse which is like this, so you have to, you are adapting something like this, then maybe you will rate it as maybe 4, it is very awkward. So like this, in heuristic evaluation we are prefixing few rule of thumb, from depending on the rule of thumb we are fixing some point, and from there we are evaluating the condition. You can take any existing heuristic, and also you can develop your new one depending on the aim and objective of your interaction. Next is various posture analysis methods. We will very briefly go to one posture analysis methods. One is called REBA, which is very easy to do, and in industry these two type of posture analysis methods is very frequently has been used. One is REBA and RULA. REBA is rapid entire body analysis. If you see this chart, REBA and RULA both are very similar. Just in case of REBA they are taking entire body, and in case of RULA, that is rapid upper limb analysis, in this case they are taking only upper limb, not the lower limb. So this is the difference, basic difference in between REBA and RULA. So this is one example of posture analysis. So if you see, also the same thing is there. So if you according to the body posture, there are few steps are there. You can get this type of forms in some books or reference, you can find it, and how much changes are there from the neutral position. So if you see locate neck posture, if your neck is in this position, if you here, then you assign some value, it is +2. So you have to write here +2. You are seeing something like this, so maybe your hand is in this section, so you assign this value here. Like this you have to put these values in the respective box, and then, and 2 points are very important. If you are holding some force or moving some load from one place to another, then you have to, depending on the load you have certain value, you will assign some value here, and end of that you have certain scoreboard type. So it is table A, table B, and final table C. Whatever value you will get is from this score A, you have to find it here. So you are seeing here this neck 1 2 3. So depending on the neck position, whatever value it will be there, maybe it is 3, then you will go neck 3, then you will go, maybe your trunk position is maybe 2, then you have to go 3, then here you have to go 2, then so here it is 3, then you have to go to 2, and then if you are if your leg position is maybe 3 or something, then 3, then trunk position 2, then again your leg position is 3, maybe your value is this 6. Like this same thing you have to take this table B, and once you have table A score and table B score, you will come to this table. If you have a table A score is 4 and table B score 6, 4, say 4, then you have to come this side and you will have final score like this. So what is the implication? So depending on the REBA and RULA both score, you can understand whether you have to intervene it's in emergency, or you can maintain it, or it is not, that means that is not risky, or it is a very high risk or medium risk, like this. So it is the score implication of the score is also included in the chart, that is negligible. If you are getting your final score is 1, so then that is negligible risk. 2 or 3 low risks change may be needed, it is not yet emergent, and 4 to 7 is medium risk, further investigation changes soon. 8 to 10 high risk, like this. 11 is very high risk. So this is REBA, and RULA is same thing. So it is same thing, you can do it from this picture, you can assign some value, and again you have to go to this from this value you will get some value here, and from this section you will get some value here. So you have table A, table B, and finally you will get table C. So same thing, you will get some final score here. The calculation and this way you will calculate is same that we have discussed in REBA. After that you will have certain things that 1 to 2, 3 to 4, 5 to 6, 7. 7 is investigate, its emergence change is required. So these are two posture related tool what we can use when we are trying to evaluate the posture and whether to understand whether you need changes right now or not. So that is the various posture analysis method. Then is pushing, pulling, carrying. Pushing, pulling, carrying is we can use Snook table. In this section few other methods are there what we can use, and also there are some equations also, maybe Nash lifting equation. So these things when you are doing for product, we need very much this type of evaluation. In this biomechanical assessment method, in this purview of this thing, we will discuss something very basic, biomechanical push pull this thing. So in this purview, so biomechanical analysis is very much important in case of when, as we have discussed with the posture, how much muscle force you need to push, to pull, to carry from one place to another, those basic evaluation methods we will discuss here. So but there are also complex equations depending on the, for example, Nash or lifting equation or some other lifting equation or carrying equations, we need to understand the horizontal vertical distance from the floor to what level they are carrying this thing, those things is required. In these type of cases, when you are designing some workstation, so from where the person will take that thing to where he will place in industry. So in these type of cases we need this push pull carry biomechanical assessment. Or you have to unload some goods in some rack, maybe we are going to shopping mall, and once they are unloading, they are keeping all this thing in a small cart and they are putting those things and putting in this rack, they are displaying on the rack. In these type of cases, it is very important to think the biomechanical assessment, means how much load they are carrying each time, or how frequently they are carrying, how many times, maybe it's less load but they are doing it more times, maybe 50 times they are doing in a minute, so because to display those products. So those things are, in these two cases it is very important, the load they are handling, the frequency, the time, those things are very important to understand and to evaluate. Depending on the aim and objective, we can take certain evaluation tool. Very briefly we will discuss few tools used to do these two things here. So one very important thing is once we are holding something in any product, when we are gripping something, so we need certain force to exert. So here we will discuss 1-2 basic tool what we are using to understand the physical ability of the person and how much we have to consider once we are designing something. As we have discussed in case of bottle or something, once we are holding this thing, we are holding and gripping and then twisting or something like this, or when we are holding some handle in a bus. So when we are holding and we are trying to protect ourselves to get fall, so that time we need certain force, and in that way it is very important how the handle has been designed, what is the diameter of the handle. So in that case grip is very important parameter. So here we have seen one instrument, it is called grip dynamometer, and it can measure. So if you can see the person grip it, and then if you can see this, you can change the position of this thing. Now the grip is like this, and depending on that, say for example with this distance what is the grip, if you extend it maybe like this, what is the how much grip force you can generate, if you put it here, so how much grip force you can generate. Obviously if we hold it like this and your these fingers are getting overlapped with this finger, then obviously it is the maximum grip, that is called power grip. So this force you can exert maximum. So once it will be more distance like this what we have discussed, so if as you increase the distance in between, so it will be more loosened. So once you are designing some product, it is very important what should be the dia of the handle or something like this. This is an example. So how much grip force is required. So here just for an example, so once you, it is very much dependent on the posture the person is adopting, that we have discussed in the biomechanics part. With posture it is changing how much force we can exert. If you see the neutral posture, if you see it is something around here, this is 0 and this is 90, so it is somewhere here. And in this case if you see, as the posture is completely extreme condition like this maximum, so now this force is, it's something here less than 20. So this is one implication where you are thinking you need the grip force, you need to, in design you have to take the grip force of the person, is an important parameter, you should evaluate this thing. Now going to the next is pinch. Pinch gauge is another very simple instrument. For example, when we are holding some clip, stapler, some U-pin or something, we are using our pinch. Pinch can be very different. Just very briefly, this is very important how much pinch force you can exert. It's very much dependent on the design of the product. Just for an example, if you see there are 4 clips and the material is also different, this is wooden, these are plastic. Also if you see, this form of this is very different. In this case it is more this curvature is there, it is more flat, and there are also texture is there, and in this case it's completely flat, it is wooden. So in this case your pinch force can be different, because when we are holding this thing, we are holding it differently. So once you are designing some product, it is important to understand, if you are thinking if you need this pinch force to manipulate that product, it is important to understand what is the how it is influencing the how design is influencing the user, so that if you want to make it a successful product, you want to make it more user centered, so that person can exert maximum force, maximum pinch force with your design, then it will be more efficient. So this is one dial is there, so if you put pressure here, so it will be get deflected. So this is called pinch gauge. So another example is push pull dynamometer. It is very understandable from the name only. So here it is for pulling something, here it is a handle. So if you are taking something, maybe you are thinking of something load shifting or something, it is important to understand the how much load you are shifting or something. In this case how much, or in this type of case maybe push. So in this case you can see, means, so if we take this example, that here are 3 examples where you need to push. This is a pen and these are some press, you have to force this part or you have to push this part to use this product. So in this case when you are designing, so it is important in this type of cases, it is important to understand if you are pushing with your thumb, then whether that product is giving that much space, so that you can put your thumb and the dimension should be compatible with the dimension of your thumb, so that you can put it and press it. If it is with this finger, then it should be compatible with this. And how? So if it is something like this, and it is also important in case of affordance, what we have discussed. So if it is something like this, maybe you will think you have to put thumb. If it is something like this sideways, maybe you will try to put it like this. So this way, this is, and also you require certain force to exert. These are the some product where we need to understand how much push the person can. If it is very weak, how much they can. Then if you want to make for very weakest person, then first we need to understand that type of population, what is the ability. So if you are doing something maybe for the person who is very weak population, first we need to understand what is the ability of the person with this type of dynamometer. So you can understand and then you can design this thing. Then it should be more, the ability should be more than the demand of this product. In this way we need to evaluate, and also the form of the product, what is the, whether there will be some spring mechanism will be there or it will be same manual. Another thing is some feedback is very important. In this type of case, if you push it, there will be some click sound. So once you do this, one is that it will open. Another thing, once this click sound is there, you can understand this product is open right now, it is ready to use. So these are the few features it is very important to incorporate in your product to make it more user centered. And another example of this muscle and biomechanical issues is electromyography. EMG is very similar. It is called the electromyography. It is recording the muscle activity. When we are holding some, take this example, once you are in like this in a comfortable condition, you have certain muscle activity. Once you are holding, maybe this is one is the example of a 500 ml bottle. If I ask you to hold 500 ml bottle and to do this thing, then you need certain force. If I increase that maybe to 1 liter or 2 liter, you need to exert certain muscle strength. Your muscle activity will be obviously different, and when you are doing nothing, there will be a reference muscle activity. So what we are seeing here, so that is the reference muscle activity. Once you are putting a medium thing, maybe 500 ml water bottle, your muscle activity has increased like this. Once you are giving something that is more heavier, then your muscle activity is changing. So this is one very important evaluation method, that is called EMG. So mostly we have done a very brief overview of these physical methods. These are the few tools and methods you can use to evaluate. So in this case of EMG or something, it is very important not only to shift some load or something like this, it is also very important where you are holding something for a longer time. Because when you are holding something for a maybe 2 minutes, 3 minutes, because it is important for your activity, then it is very important to understand how fast you will be fatigued. So after holding something for a longer time, you will feel fatigue. So then you can't hold it properly. So in these type of cases, EMG is also another very important biomechanical evaluation approach what you can use in your to understand user product interaction. Obviously the aim will be just to make it more user centered, taking the abilities and limitation of the person, so that your aim will be the muscle activity should be nearer to reference. It is just to minimize this activity. The aim is to minimize the awkwardness and more muscle activity should be reduced. Now just going to this psychophysiological methods, which is very important nowadays in case of new marketing and this thing. Just for an example, maybe when we are going to a mall or something, or maybe you are going for a juice want to buy. So once on a rack or shelf it is displayed so many types of juice. Mostly if you see something very different packaging, means it is attracting you. So if something unique product design is there, how you are behaving, if it is first time you are seeing, so once you are entering, that how you behave. So that is important in case of behavior analysis. This is also very important if you have designed some product, and how whether the person is getting frustrated after using that, maybe again and again it is giving some error, or this person can't operate this switch very easily, how it is changing, influencing the behavior, affecting the behavior. So in these type of cases, what we are taking the psychological issues and also the physiological issues. So these four things are psychophysiological methods to assess the user experience in user product interaction. First is the behavior analysis. We can do it from the, it can be whether the person is smiling, whether the person is frowning, or whether he is feeling irritated from his facial expression. Those things can be understood from this behavior analysis. Electromyography also, if the person is smiling, then same EMG what we have discussed, we can understand putting these probes on the facial muscle. So if we put this thing, then we can understand whether the person is happy or not after seeing the smiling face of this thing. EEG is electroencephalogram. You are after seeing the sharpener what we have discussed in the earlier video. After seeing the sharpener, if you are feeling happy, so there will be a happiness is there. So if you are frustrated, if you are irritated, if you are bored, if you are angry, so those things can be understood from electroencephalogram when we are recording the brain waves. Last but not the least is eye tracking recording. So it is very important nowadays. Once we are seeing, maybe if you have a bottle of soft drinks or something in a shelf, same drinks is there, maybe in a canned version, another is bottle version. Maybe your can is less height and your bottle is more elongated, something and different shape. So if it can understand what is more attracting the person, due to the shape and form of the bottle, it is more attracting the user, so they are getting influence. So this type of understanding we can have to understand what is preferred by the user when you are designing some user product. Eye tracking and all these methods can be used in a very different way depending on the context what you want to understand. There are so many psychophysiological evaluation methods, few we have discussed here. Last but not the least, as we have discussed the product personality in our emotional aspects of human factors. So it's not about evaluation of user product, how we look. As we have discussed, we are assigning some personality to the product. So there one available scale is there, it's by Schoorman, Moog and Gowers. So there is once, this is just one example of assigning a product personality. Is if you have some product, this is just one example, as you can see car 1, car 2. So it is already existing, so they have certain adjectives. So if you see that cheerful, open, relaxed, pretty, provoking, interesting, if you see all these are what we are assigning some personality to the person, maybe untidy, silly, boring, aloof, serious, honest. These are the few personality traits what we are assigning for a human being. So this type of adjectives has been mentioned in this scale, and here in this case it's a rating scale is there. In this case it is 1 to 5, so it is, this kind is descriptive and this is not descriptive. So depending on the car design they have assigned. So here you can see for car 2, if you think the cheerful, it is more cheerful, it is, this trait is more descriptive in this car than this car 1. Car 1 has 2 and car 2 has all 5. So like this, for each of this criteria they have assign this value against this each of this product. By that thing you can assess the personality of the product, which actually after seeing this thing, depending on that, so you can have this from the point of view of product design. Maybe this dimension matters a lot, maybe this is more like this, so maybe it is not cheerful. If you see this thing, this is cheerful. So once you change these visual attributes of the product, it will influence the personality the user is assigning to the product. Once you can understand, once you can scale, or once you can assess the attributes, how they are assessing this product, these insights you can take in your product design, or depending on the user or the context of the person. In this case, when if you know the user's personality, this thing, or as we have discussed, the congruence of the user personality is matching with the car's personality or the product's personality in this type of maybe car. If you know the user personality, then you can take certain insights and you can incorporate those features, maybe this thing or this thing or this type of thing. These visual features you can incorporate in your design to make it more user centered, depending on the user for whom you are designing. So these are the main evaluation tools and methods, few evaluation tools and methods we have covered in this section. What you can use in your user product interaction to make it more user centered and better to use from the point of view of physical usability issue, and also to make it more pleasurable. Thank you.